It's like an oven in here. And in a way, it should be. Oh. You're finishing soon?
Yeah.
I think I'll just take Zeb for a walk, then.
Okay. Come on, Zeb. Come on. Come on, then. Come on. Come on, then. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Come on! Zebedee! 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 Come on, Zeb! Come on! Zeb! Oh, there you are! What is it? What is it?
Another cult figure among the young enough or gullible enough to dabble in these mysteries is the self-styled Abbot of Lufford. A middle-aged American of somewhat obscure background, he is seldom seen outside the confines of the converted urban rectory where he lives. He declined to grant us an interview, but perhaps the profundity of his intellect, and indeed a fitting epitaph on the whole gallimaufry of mumbo-jumbo that has been the subject of our programme, can be found in A History of Witchcraft, a tome which Mr. Carswell, the Abbot of Lufford, published privately in 1969. Vice is the only true virtue. Lust is the only true modesty. Indecency the only true decorum. And evil the only true good.
What did you think?
I didn't tell you very much.
What is there to tell? Alchemy? Witchcraft? Demonology? I thought Prudence did a very good demolition job.
Yes, that man they mentioned towards the end, Carswell.
Yes. Pity she couldn't have got him on the screen.
I seem to remember that name. Look, nasty associations. Carswell. Oh, well, it'll come to me, but it was something unpleasant, though.
Joe, can you hand me that file? Thanks. This acupuncture fellow, what does he want? He says he's waiting for a reply to his telephone call.
Oh, Patel.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the one who keeps phoning to ask if we pay him for interviewing him.
Lord, him? Right, and tell him to piss off.
You thought he might be interesting, being an Indian.
Yes, well, not that interesting.
Well done, Prudence.
Oh, thanks. It was all right, wasn't it?
Of course it wasn't all right. It was excellent. The alchemists were a bit of an easy target, perhaps.
Oh, come on, Derek. You only gave them 2.25 minutes.
Oh, yes, no criticism. You had to deal with them. But some of the others put up a pretty good fight.
Didn't you just love the man doing the Uri Geller?
Getting it all wrong. Terrific.
I knew you'd like it.
That fellow you quoted at the end, Carslake.
No, Carswell. It's a pity he wouldn't appear, isn't it?
Did you speak to him at all?
No. Found his book in the Brotherton Library, but we wrote to him. Wouldn't come in there.
Jean thought she remembered something about him. Something unpleasant.
He's a bit of a bogeyman locally, apparently, but, well...
So what now? On with the fringe medicine.
Yeah. Back to the acupuncturists, the osteopaths, the hypnotists.
Well?
Oh, Joe, bless you.
Oh, what's this?
Night dress.
Oh, it's lovely, Prue.
Come on. Off there now.
What did you say? I didn't.
Oh, Derek, I meant to tell you, the most extraordinary thing.
I'm just in the mood for extraordinary things.
No, really. We saw that programme last night. It was your company, wasn't it? The one about witchcraft and all that.
Guilty?
Well, actually, we only caught the last bit. John turned it on to see the news.
News was good.
Thanks.
No, listen. The bit about the Abbot of Lufford. Carswell, yes. What was it about him? When we were both at Hayes and Lawton. John Harrington. I knew it. I knew I remembered.
Remembered what? Oh, it's all a lot of nonsense. Tell us anyway.
Well, you know Jean and I both used to work at Hayes and Lawton. Well, there was a reader we used to use called Harrington. John Harrington. A very funny man. I mean, witty. And devastating when he wanted to be. But we always used to send him all the cranky stuff we got in. I mean, some of his reports were an absolute scream sometimes. This was, what, 10, 12 years ago?
1968.
Yes. So there was a plethora of flower power and psychedelic pseudo-mystic manuscripts coming in. And we always used to give them to John Harrington. This is awful. Anyway, that book you quoted on the programme last night, The History of Witchcraft, that was submitted to us by Miss Carswell. I mean, I remember. We sent it back unread the first time. I mean, it was in longhand.
Oh, longhand? It was beautiful. It was like an illuminated manuscript.
But he sent it back to us again, and we shoved it onto poor John Harrington.
So what's so awful?
Do you remember his report, Jean?
Yes.
It was a masterpiece of destructive criticism. He was an oddity, was John. He was full of arcane knowledge and bits and pieces of everything. The thing was, his reader's report was so funny, it got sort of passed around the office.
And somehow, Carswell got hold of a copy of it. Well, John Harrington died. Didn't make sense, really. Almost every bone in his body was broken.
Ooh, let's talk about something else.
But you brought it up.
Yes, I know. I've forgotten the details. Forgotten what his brother said.
What did his brother say?
Said he didn't recognize John at first. Said his face was fixed in a sort of animal smile. Said he'd only seen a snarl like it once before. On a cat that had been run over.
Oh, come on. Are you saying that this has something to do with what's his name? Carswell?
Fitting epitaph on the whole gallimaufry of mumbo-jumbo that has been the subject of our programme can be found in A History of Witchcraft, a tome which Mr. Carswell, the Abbot of Lufford, published privately in 1969. Vice is the only true virtue. Lust is the only true modesty. Indecency, the only true decorum. And evil, the only true good.
Peter?
Yeah?
What the hell's that?
Hmm?
We didn't transmit that, did we?
Certainly not. Hold on. Well, it must be some kind of joke. Someone's cut it into the print. Curiouser and curiouser. Couldn't have been cut in. There aren't any joins.
Well, somebody must have done something if it didn't go out like that. Do you think it could have been stamped on?
Doesn't look like it. Looks like a perfectly normal graphic to me.
Only the wrong one.
I'll talk to my assistant in the morning and we'll check the negative and see if it's on that.
You don't happen to know anyone called John Harrington?
Don't think so. This one's a little bit unattainable. According to this, he died 10 years ago.
My apologies.
That's all right.
Most clumsy of me.
Thank you.
Did Dr. Smith get hold of you?
Dr. Smith?
One of your neighbours. He called to tell you that Pamela's been taken ill.
Oh, I haven't heard anything. Oh? He said it was urgent, so I told him you were at the library. He said he'd contact you there.
Pamela ill?
In hospital at the infirmary. He said it was food poisoning. Well, I didn't know any Dr. Smith. Did he leave a number? No. Good night. Night, Joe.
Has she eaten any fish lately that might have been off?
I don't know. She just rents the room in my house. Actually, we do share the same kitchen, but I don't know. Look, she's going to be all right.
Oh, yes.
Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
You're not the Dr. Smith who telephoned my office?
No, my name's Bannister.
Who telephoned for the ambulance? Do you know?
Yes, she did.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So I just sat there all night.
The spider?
Well, that's what it... Yes, with teeth, not an ordinary spider. Calling the funny farm, are we?
You could say that. Oh, Pat, get me my wife, would you? How long is this friend of yours likely to be away?
Not Pamela. Oh, the hospital want to keep her in another 2 or 3 days.
Jean? Listen, Prudence is coming to stay for a couple of days. She's been having a bit of a bad time. No. We'll explain when we see you. Right? Bye, darling.
Derek, there's no need.
There is a need. A very definite need.
God, honestly, I must sound like a complete loony. Not to me, you don't. Well, actually, another peculiar thing happened last week.
What was that?
I'm frightened to tell you. You're all right. The name John Harrington doesn't mean anything to either of you, does it?
But I'll go make us some coffee. Do you drink coffee, Prue, at this time of the night?
Yeah, sure. Can I help?
No, it's fine. But, oh, Derek, you could. Or you can turn up the heating.
You've been lying on top of the fire all evening.
I'm still cold. I think there must be something wrong with the boiler. Fiddle with that, you don't.
Oh, you did
I just wanted to talk to you alone. You've got to tell her.
What, the whole thing?
Yes. For God's sake, yes.
I don't see any real point in frightening the life out of her if there's nothing she can do about it.
There must be something we can do. We can certainly try.
Well, what?
I don't know.
What did the second captain say?
1 month was allowed.
Prue, the truth is we do know who John Harrington is. Or was.
You know? Well, how?
Before I married Derek, I worked for a firm of publishers. We had a reader called John Harrington who wrote a very funny and very scathing report on a book that had been sent in manuscript form. Somehow, the author got hold of a copy of this report, and a month later, while he was staying up here with his brother, John died in very mysterious circumstances.
Something to do with the book?
Yes.
What was that book?
The History of Witchcraft.
Carswell.
John was undeniably in a very odd state during the weeks before he died.
In what way?
Well, there were a lot of things. The main one was this conviction that he had that he was being followed.
Look, Mr. Harrington, I
Call me Henry if fancy.
Okay. I didn't know your brother, of course, so I have to ask this, but was he inclined to, I don't know, delusions?
Well, he was an imaginative chap. More sensitive than he'd appeared on first acquaintance, but inclined to paranoid fantasy. No. Some of the things that have happened to you, they do remind me of John. Can you think of any possible connecting link?
Yes. Unfortunately.
Go on.
Jean Gayton told me that not long before he died, your brother wrote a rather devastating report on a book that they'd had submitted. Well, I produced a television documentary recently, and in passing, referred to the man who wrote that book in a similar sort of way.
Carswell.
Something happened to John. It might have a bearing on the situation. He was a great concert goer. Even when he lived up here with me, he used to go down to London once, twice a week. And he'd always keep the programs. Not just concerts. Theatres, too. This is where it happened. Where his body was found. Yes, quite.
You said he was taking a dog for a walk, right? What happened to the dog?
I don't know. He was never seen again. What was I saying?
Your brother going to concerts.
Oh, yes. And as I say, he always kept the programs. One day, about a month before he died, he showed me one over the breakfast table. Actually, he said he almost missed it. The program, I mean. It was the end of the concert. It was the festival hall, I remember. And he couldn't find his program. And then this big man sitting next to him realized what he was looking for and offered him his.
Go on.
Shall we go back to the house? As he handed the program across the breakfast table to me, a piece of paper slipped out of it. It had odd, rather runic writing on it, beautifully done. And he picked it up and he said something like, this must belong to my big friend. And then he pushed it across the table toward me. And it was strange because there wasn't a window open or anything. But there was this, before I could pick it up, gust of wind, warm wind. Picked it up, blew it into the fireplace, into the fire.
And that was the end of it?
Of the piece of paper, certainly. I said, I hope it wasn't valuable. You can't give it back to your big friend. He was furious. He leapt up and shouted at me.
Shouted? Shouted what?
He said, no, I can't give it back. But you don't have to keep on saying it. I don't know what to say. I only said it once, and I told him so. He said once, more like 5 times. And then he slammed out of the room.
Tell me something. Do you feel that there was a connection between your brother's death and that slip of paper?
Well, it was after that he began to believe he was being followed.
Derek.
Now, French medicine.
No.
Oh.
The other matter. Carswell.
More nastiness.
No, not yet. But I went down to see Henry Harrington.
Yeah?
Well, 2 weeks before he died, John Harrington received 2 slightly mysterious things through the post. Now, the first was this.
Like one that on a lonesome road doth walk in fear and dread, and having once turned round, walks on and turns no more his head, because he knows a frightful fiend doth close behind him tread. S.T. Coleridge, The Ancient Mariner, 1772 to 1834.
Wonder what you read at Oxford.
What was the other mysterious thing?
Well, it was this.
Very ordinary-looking calendar for 1968.
Mm-hmm. Look at December.
No, there isn't any December.
No. Now look at the last date there is.
Well, there's nothing after the 18th of November. It's been cut out.
That was the day that John Harrington died.
And he's arrived through the post, just like this.
Yep. And there's more. 1 month to the day before he died, John Harrington was surreptitiously handed a slip of paper with curious writing on it.
What do you mean, surreptitiously?
Without his knowledge. Inside a festival hall concert program by a big man sitting next to him.
Carswell. Sure. I mean, I can't.
I went back to this, Carswell's book. And there's a chapter devoted to a charming little activity called casting the runes. Harrington told me that from the brief glimpse he'd had of the slip of paper, it looked as if the writing on it was in runic characters.
Casting the runes? What does it mean?
Some sort of spell, I suppose, or curse. You write it on a piece of paper, hand it personally to your victim, and within a specified time, the victim's dead.
I'm sure I hate to admit it, but I'm beginning to take all this a bit seriously.
How do you think I'm taking it?
You may be a bloody awful producer, but you're the best I've got. I'd hate to lose you.
Tar.
But nobody slipped you a bit of paper, have they?
I don't know. How can I know? That's the whole point. It's supposed to be a secret, because once you know how it works, you can put the curse back on the sender by giving the piece of paper back to them. Look, I'll read you the book.
What's that?
I've just remembered. I was in the Brotherton Library last week. I was waiting to check out a pile of books when somebody knocked them over. I didn't take much notice of him, but... yes, it was a big man. He picked them up for me.
Could you slip something into one of them?
He could have slipped something into one of them. Yes.
okay?
Okay.
They're in what I laughingly call my study.
Come on, Prue. Nothing to be scared of. God, it's hot in here.
Must be something wrong with the heating.
Mind if I open the window?
No, no, please.
It's always hot in here.
No, can't understand it.
The heating's not on even. Which ones are they?
Oh, there are 6 of them, I think. Yes, it's these.
Nope.
No? Eric!
Seems to have a life of its own.
Let me see. I wonder what it says.
Know any runic speakers?
I don't think it's something that you speak.
I don't even know what runes are.
It's the earliest Teutonic alphabet, actually an adaptation of the Greek alphabet.
Thanks. Is there any way we can find out what it says?
Doesn't really matter what it says, does it? We know what it means.
Yeah. I've got an envelope.
What for?
We send it back to Carswell, right?
Wrong. I have to give it to him. I have to hand it to him personally.
If he's hiding away in his rectory...
He must come out sometimes.
He knows what you look like. He must do if it was him at the library.
Well, I don't know. I wear my hair in a bun, dark glasses, that sort of thing. Okay. How long have I got before this thing works?
We assume the same amount of time as Harrington had.
That's a month. A month from the day it was handed to me. Hold it a moment. Now, I was at the library on the 2nd of November.
That means you've got 10 days to the 2nd of December.
I think it's more likely to be a lunar month. So that would make it the 30th of November.
8 days.
Yes, miss?
I'd like to see Mr. Carswell, please. My name is Rogers, Mrs. Rogers.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Rogers. Mr. Carswell's expecting you. Come this way.
Mrs. Rogers? Mrs. Rogers.
Oh, Mr. Carswell, I...
Come and sit down. Won't you please?
Thank you. I'm from the Council for the Protection of...
Rural England.
And, I have a...
Questionnaire you'd like me to fill in?
Why, yes. It's about the application for the proposed...
Ring Road.
So, if you wouldn't mind, I'll leave it with you. I'm sure you'd like time to study it. Please?
No, no, Miss Stunning. You'd have to be much more clever than that. Huh?
Here, focus. What happened?
He's expecting me.
I can believe it. I can't. This is Mr. Wiggin. He owns the local newspapers.
He was expecting me. The housekeeper knew my name, even the name I was using.
Housekeeper?
Well, I suppose it was a housekeeper. She had a sort of overall on.
She wear glasses?
Yes.
Mrs. Pierce.
He laughed at me. He just sat there and laughed at me.
Yes, I know that laugh. Mrs. Pierce. She's been dead 3 years nearly.
Well, it couldn't have been her then, could it?
Well...
It couldn't have been her!
Well, he hasn't taken on nobody else. Not as housekeeper, he hasn't. Nobody around here likes working for him. Carswell's going away. The shooting up house is going abroad.
Where to?
Venezuela.
When?
Next Thursday, the 30th. Our last day.
Well, in a way, it's quite a good thing, really. You can't give him the piece of paper while he's holed up in his house.
No. Nor when he's in Venezuela.
But in between?
Catch him on the wing, you mean?
Well, it's your only chance. Oh. Try and eat something, Prue.
Oh, it's lovely, but I just...
Come on.
Sorry, Jean.
Well, let's at least try and make a plan. Somehow, you've got to give him the runes between his house and the aeroplane, right?
For heaven's sake! I've tried already, it won't work!
Come on, Prue, darling. You mustn't get upset. Where are you going?
To phone the airport.
Now, come on.
Aviado Airways, this is the final call for passengers travelling to Caracas on flight AB437. Please proceed now to passport control.
Why can't you keep your damn bags under, man?
My apologies, sir.
Mr. Carswell, your ticket.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carswell.
Moving towards an ultimate agreement. The Prime Minister said in the Commons last night that negotiations in Brussels over the monetary spiral had reached stalemate, pending a summit meeting in February. In Iran,
we're back.
rioters and soldiers have clashed in the capital, Tehran.
Did you do it?
Demonstrators made barricades of flaming lorries and cars.
think so.
60 civilian
She did it.
casualties are reported.
God for
Weather?
that.
It'll be a cold night.
Well, what happened?
With a maximum
What
temperature
effect did it have on him?
centigrade.
He
Tomorrow,
just
a northeasterly
stared
wind
at
will bring
me.
the likelihood of snow in some northern counties.
And then?
He just walked through into the departure
News
lounge
has
and disappeared.
Just reached us of an air disaster over the Bristol Channel involving a Brazilian jumbo bound for Caracas. First reports tell of a violent disturbance in the passenger department and a rapid loss of altitude. The pilot was heard to speak of panic and confusion, but did not specify a cause. Seconds later, all communication with the plane was lost. Local shipping has been diverted to the area. We'll be giving you more details on this story as they come in.
Catherine blocks the cross to G.
High Adventure. Tonight's exciting story by Ron Evans is called Arctic Treasure. I've waited many years to tell this story, 50 to be precise. Yet this time, I still doubt if anybody will believe me. It happened in the summer of 1920, and I had just graduated. Being in need of money because of the recent death of my parents, I decided to pander to my spirit of adventure before settling down to my chosen profession. I joined a Norwegian whaler, and during the trip into the Arctic was quickly promoted to a deckhand in one of the small whale chasers, which in those days was little more than a small tugboat in appearance, and crewed by 6 men. We went as far north as Baffin Bay, harpooning whales and flagging them for the mothership to collect later. It was a bad season, though, and as the time came close to our return, it was decided to add to the trip's profits by catching a few seals. From the whaling grounds, we sailed into Hudson Bay and north into Fox Basin, a wilderness of ice floes and towering bergs.
Aye, catching seals is not a job for a squeamish man, Tim. Shoot them, don't you? Only the adult ones. The pups have got to be clubbed.
No need to pull a face, Tim. You'll get used to it. Why not shoot them? What's the difference?
It spoils the fur. Yeah, the least damaged fur brings the highest price. And of course, the pup's furs brings in the best price.
Cruel.
Oh, one sharp blow from the club kills them outright. And then we skin them on the spot.
Rather not have to do it myself, sir.
Well, since you're the junior on board, you'll probably be detailed to look after the ship anyway.
I've been seal catching now for 10 years, and it still makes my blood run cold. Their attitude, they look in their eyes when you lift the club, helpless yet trusting.
Well, it's got to be done, Snorri.
Yeah. So the fancy women can have their fashionable coats.
We get a good bonus from it, don't forget.
I can live without it. Whales are okay. I don't have to look into their eyes.
What's that? Are we stopping? No. Now we're getting in among the icebergs. It becomes a long, tedious routine of slow ahead and full ahead. Keeps whoever's on the wheel on his toes, especially at night.
What's so special about the night? The searchlight on the bow?
We keep at half speed all the time then, in spite of the light. Give the man a chance to maneuver.
Remember, for every ton of berg above the surface, there's 10 tons below.
That's right. So one that's low in the water is difficult to spot with the light. But it could sink us if we hit it at full speed.
Yes, I see that. I'll be glad when the trip's finished. I can't say I'm a born sailor. Yeah, I remember how many times you get seasickness after we leave Glasgow. It took 4 days for my stomach to settle down. Still, I've had my fill of so-called adventure. This is my last trip, anyway. Grief. What's happening?
Relax, boy. It'll be happening all the time. We must have hit a small underwater ice floe. Nothing to worry about.
I thought it was going to come through the bottom. No, these chasers are built strong.
It's nearly 4. Time I got ready to relieve Tom Brewer on the wheel. You're lucky, Tim. Only got the cooking to worry about.
I think I'll get some sleep, Freddy. I'm on at midnight, the worst darn watch. Tim, you don't call me for dinner, huh?
You seasick, Snorri?
No, boy. I have to have my wits about me for the hunting tomorrow, and the only way is to get as much sleep as possible.
When dawn broke next morning, I went out on deck. In every direction lay a white desolation of ice floes, so tightly packed that the clear blue of the water could barely be seen between them. Only one thing stood out. The huge iceberg dead ahead of us. Its peak was at least 50 feet high, and it was a quarter of a mile in width, though the greater portion of this was not more than a few feet above sea level. The skipper reduced speed as we drew close to the berg, and we slowly nosed our way through the pack ice, then hard a port on the wheel. We came alongside a flat stretch of the berg as neatly as we did the mothership. Fred, Snorri, and Lars jumped over the side of the ice, each armed with a sledgehammer and 2 steel pikes. These were hammered into the ice to hold fast our mooring ropes. We had moored at the point nearest to the steep rise of the berg, and the peak now towered above our tiny ship, only a few yards away. Littering the berg was a huge colony of seals, literally hundreds of them. Most watched with interest, unaware of the fate in store for them.
Get your rifles and come from the mate, boys. You, Barton, stay on board and keep a watch in the morning.
Yes, Skipper.
I hear you've no stomach for this kind of work anyway.
He's got you taped, Tim. More like you told him, didn't you? No, all right. I'll admit it. I'd have hated to see you being given the killing work when I have to look after the mooring. Well, for that, I suppose I should be thankful. But why I should have to stand here and watch the ropes is a mystery. They look very secure to me. You're dead wrong, Tim. Bergs can be very treacherous. They'll split in half, crumble even, on the slightest pretext. Thanks for the cheerful news. What will you chaps do out there if that happens? Make a mad dash back here if we can. Oh, there's little risk to the ship, laddie. We're all right, really, so long as we don't get dunked in the water. And if you do? A man's life expectancy in that water's less than a minute, I've heard. Oh, here's the mate, Fred.
You ready, Freddie?
Yes. Yes, I was just warning young Tim here of the dangers. Oh, great. That saves me the job. But what do I do if the berg does start to break up? Into fragments, I mean. Yeah, well, you see the slope over there? Yes. The main danger lies in a split appearing there and breaking away. The broken part could roll and drag the ship over with it. Now, if that happens, cut the moorings. Don't look so alarmed, kid. It's 1,000,000 to 1, but it's as well to know. Okay? Yes, yes. You find a fire axe fore and aft. Go along and put them beside the bollards, just in case. Okay, Freddie, let's go. The skipper, Snorri, and Lars are waiting for us.
I watched them go, rifles slung over their shoulders and long clubs swinging from their hands. They didn't bother with a few seals in sight of the ship. The main colony was on the other side of the berg. I got out the axes and laid them on the deck. I shuddered when the shooting started. The ugly picture of the slaughter in my mind's eye. As the shots echoed out across the stillness of the icy waste, small chunks of ice broke away from the high peak and came down the slope in numerous miniature avalanches. At first it worried me, but I quickly realized it was of little importance and only caused by the sound waves of the shots. Trying to take my morbid thoughts off the slaughter, I studied the white peak, which had obviously once been part of a glacier. I looked at a point a third of the way up. A large chunk of ice dislodged itself and came tumbling down, breaking up into small pieces during its descent. The particles came to rest on more than 50 feet from the ship. When I looked back, there was a dark scar at the point where the ice had broken away. And the more I looked at it, the more intrigued I became. What could be the cause, I wondered. Something up there, I'm sure of it. If I could just get a closer look. Of course, there's the skipper's binoculars. With luck, he'll have left them in the wheelhouse. I'm darn sure he won't have taken them with him. Here they are. Maybe I'm just imagining it, or it could just be a crevice in the ice. Now, where is it? Yes. Oh, darn these glasses where each eyepiece has to be focused. It can't be. How can there be a piece of timber up there? But it's too timber at that. Perfectly rounded and neatly cut off at the end that's sticking out. It's almost as though it's the yardarm of another ship. It can't be. How can a ship be in the middle of an iceberg? I was both astonished and very curious. And this made me do a foolish thing. Yes, foolish it may have been, but I'm glad to this day that I did. Putting the binoculars back into the wheelhouse, I then jumped over onto the ice and started up the slope. It rose only gradually at first. But soon the going became harder as it got steeper. Chunks of ice slid from under my feet, but I kept on, my eyes fixed on that piece of wood. Then inside the berg. There's just enough room for me to... squeeze in here. It's like a tunnel. Reflects the light well. What's this? An iron ring around it. This looks like a piece of thick cloth. Better be careful, otherwise I'll... Oh, no! I must be seeing things. It's impossible! I gaped in awe. I was looking down into an immense cathedral-like cavern of ice. On the floor of this cavern, like the sailor's ship in a bottle, was a complete ship. Not an ordinary ship, but a Viking longship. Hunched, fur-clad figures of men sat at their oars, exactly as they must have frozen to death 1,000 years before. Keels still lined the gunwales, and the remains of a sail hung stiffly down towards them from where I was perched. Everything was still, silent, a little frightening. I glanced around me, but there was no way down. And then stared in awed fascination, wondering what tragedy had befallen these Vikings so long ago, and marveling at the miracle that had preserved them for so long. Look at the man at the steering oar. He's still standing. There's others there, huddled in the middle as though they were trying to keep each other warm. Camera. If only I had a camera. It's almost as bright as daylight in here, bright enough to take photographs anyway. I wonder if any of the others have a camera. Possible.
Varden! Where is the boy? I want him to help us get these pelts aboard. Tom, where is he?
Gone down below for a minute. Hey, Fred, Snarly, put a bit more effort into it, will you?
We're doing our best. You've lost it, boy. He's supposed to be watching the moorings. He'll get a taste of my boot when we get on board. Varden, where are you?
Up here, Skipper.
What are you doing up there? Get yourself down here right now.
Must come up here and see what I found.
Damn cheek of that kid. Come down here, I say.
Please come and look. I found a complete ship, a Viking ship.
So what? Get down here and lend a hand with these pelts, don't you? What did he say he's found? Some stupid nonsense about a Viking ship. Good, he's coming down. I have a good mind to fine him for this. Dedication of duty, that's what I call it.
Dereliction of duty, you mean, Skipper?
I'll speak English my way, and you speak it yours.
Okay, you're the boss, Skipper.
You must come up and take a look, Skipper. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so will the bruises be on your backside if you're not careful.
You grab a hold of these pelts here and start pulling, boy. I'll talk to you later about this. Hey, the ice. The ice, it's beginning to crack. Hurry.
Let's get these pelts on board.
Right. Don't look back, Tim. Just keep pulling. Come on, boys. Not much farther to go.
Mound of bloodied seal pelts. The ice under our feet shuddered. I looked back up at the peak. It had split almost down the middle like the first cut of the knife in a wedding cake. The nearest portion seemed to waver, balancing. And suddenly it collapsed. A huge wall of ice swung outwards and crumbled into an avalanche, which swept down the slope towards us. We were only a few yards from the ship.
Leave the pelts! Get on board! I don't need telling twice. Come on, Tim.
We dropped our burden and ran for it. We reached the deck in good time and looked back. The avalanche-sack heaven was losing its impotence in the gradual slope. It reached the pelts, pushed them forward, and petered out.
Oh, good. It's even done some work for us. Huh? I don't like the look of the other half of that peak. It's got... Hey, what's that?
There, you can see it all. It's the Viking ship. It must have been locked in the ice for centuries.
Gee. It ain't very big, is it? Not much bigger than our whale chaser. It's a miracle. A miracle. It's a pity we can't go and take a closer look, Tom. What? With the rest of the peak ready to collapse on top of it? You'd have to be crazy.
I know my history, and what's in that ship is worth 1,000,000 times more than those sea pelts.
What do you mean, kid?
Come with me and I'll show you.
What is it? Treasure or something?
No, nothing like that. It's evidence that'll change a myth into a fact. Has anyone got a camera so we can take a picture of it?
The skipper's got one. Hey, you! I think it's safe now for us to get those pelts. Skipper, can young Tim borrow your camera? Camera? No, he can't. Come on, let's get those pelts. Seems you're out of luck. Forget it, and let's get the job done before that peak collapses.
We hopped over the side and ran across the ice. While the bundle was being dragged clear, I ducked away and ran off towards the Viking ship, which now stood out, clear and stark against the white background of the overhanging peak. That was crazy, I know. My curiosity overcame any fear. I'd actually reached the wooden longship when they missed me. I ignored their shouts and gingerly stepped on board, lost completely in the wonderment of the moment. Close to me, hunched on his rowing bench, sat a fur-clad warrior. His skin was frost-blackened, but otherwise perfectly preserved. It was as though he had died in his sleep, eyes closed and at peace. Lying in the center section was a battle axe, which I picked up. I counted 45 men and 8 women. Then I turned to the huddle group in the center. There were 8 of them, 4 men and 4 women. I gazed at their hooked noses and high cheekbones. At first I thought them to be Eskimos, till I pulled aside their stiff fur cloaks.
Tim, come here, you damn fool. Can you hear me? Oh, never mind him. Let's get these pelts on board. If that peak collapses, he'll be killed, Skipper. That's his fault. Come on, here. Look, Skipper, we can't just leave him up there. Why not? I didn't ask him to bow. Look, there's something up there that fascinates him. I'll go and get him. No. First we get these pelts on board. Then if you want to commit suicide, you can. Okay. I'll go along with that. Right. Now cut your rope, Freddy. That's it. Now throw them over in small bundles. Like this. I'll go with you, Tom. No, you won't. You stay here, Freddy. That's an order. Well, let me go instead of Tom. No. It's my responsibility. Now shut up, Fred, and keep working. All right. This is the last one, anyway. Okay if I go now, Skipper? Isn't okay, but how can I stop you, huh? No, you can't. I'll see you later. Hey, Tom! Come back! You can't risk it now. The ice is starting to break up again. I won't be long.
As Tom Brewer raced up the slope towards the Viking ship, I was oblivious to the danger above my head. The gigantic umbrella of ice shuddered and creaked. I closely examined the bodies and was busy looking over the stores of dried food when I heard Tom shout. He was standing on a ledge of ice, looking over the row of bronze shields at me.
Tim! What the devil do you think you're doing? Get out of there, but quick!
Not yet, Tom. Come and take a look here.
You darn fool, the whole ice cap is about to come down around the ears.
Tom, you must come and look, please. Is there nothing we can do to save it?
Oh, that kid's gone crazy!
Look, do you realize the value of this find? It'll settle a lot of historical arguments, and obviously...
Oh, shut up and get wise to yourself. Are you trying to get us both killed?
We must find a way of saving the ship, Tom. Look at it.
I ain't looking at anything. Are you coming with me, or do I have to carry you?
Float, I wonder? If we could tow it back...
All right, you asked for it. Now maybe you'll do as you're told. He's heavy. The poor kid must have gone off his head. It's as though this old hulk has bewitched him. Better step on it. This berg's gonna fall apart any minute.
off that ship like a man being chased by Lucifer himself. Even as he ran with his burden down the slippery slope, big cracks started to appear under his feet. At times he had to jump across widening crevasses. As he got closer to the chaser, Fred and Snorri jumped over the side and helped him get me on board, and then unceremoniously dumped me on the steel deck. I was just regaining consciousness while they unmoored the ship. Tom started up the engines and we pulled away from the ice. Still dazed, I stood up and looked out over the rails at the awesome sight. The ice had parted completely across the width of the berg, and the Viking ship was perched a few feet above the water, tilting towards it as though ready to be launched. I stared, transfixed, for what seemed like an hour. Then I turned and ran to the wheelhouse. Skipper, please let me have your camera before it's too late.
Get out of my sight, boy. What do you think you are, bloody tourist?
Please, this is important.
Down below with you! You hear me, boy?
I turned away from the wheelhouse and looked out across the chill water. From the corner of my eye, I could see Fred, Snorri, and Tom Brewer looking out over the rail, too. Slowly, the Viking ship slipped forward from its icy perch, and gathering momentum, it fell and hit the water. I held my breath as it floated, proud as it had 1,000 years ago, its tattered sail hanging limply. To my horror, I saw it settle lower in the water, and the bow suddenly rose up, and the whole ship gently and soundlessly slid out of sight below the icy sea. I continued to stare until Tom came up and slapped me on the back.
Well, you come out of your trance. Would it have been worth dying for?
No, not worth dying for, but...
It's not uncommon, you know. Plenty of ships, even modern ones, have been trapped in the ice before now. They come to the same end. I remember one time a couple of years ago...
You don't understand, do you, Tom?
Huh?
This one was different.
Different? What way?
Did you see the faces of those men and women? The ones huddled together in the middle where I was standing when you came aboard.
Sorry, kid. I was only interested in getting you off there. Well, what about them?
They were Indians, American Indians, not Eskimos. I looked closely at their dress under the fur capes.
Well, what about it? So they were Indians.
Don't you see, Tom? If we could have preserved that ship or at least taken photographs, we could have proved that it was the Vikings who discovered America, not Columbus.
Who cares who found America? Does it make any difference?
There's a lot of people who would like to know the truth, Tom. And you didn't even stop to look. Returned home, I went to great pains to identify the tribe the Indians had come from, by their dress. They were Tuscaroras, who had once lived in the area now known as New York. But though I knew this to be true, making others believe me was a different matter. I was laughed at and told I was a charlatan trying to make a name for myself. In the end, I gave up. And this is the first time in 50 years I've told the story.
Adventure is produced by Anne Freed and directed by Henry Diffenthal.
unarmed soldiers, an unimportant patrol on a trivial mission, set out on this gloomy November night in 1915 to attack a minor mortar position, kill a few enemy soldiers, and return to its lines. Indeed, a modest beginning for what is now just seconds away.
Think of all the pleasant things a man of my sensitivity could be doing tonight. Watching the ballet, playing the piano, enjoying vintage wines.
A night like this is good for only two things: picking pockets or making love. And on your feet.
On your stomach, on your feet, on your stomach, on your feet. Oh, what an unpleasant war.
Those flares, do they mean they've seen us?
Probably.
What will happen?
If they kill enough of us, the next ration of schnapps. If we kill enough of them, perhaps they let us take a bath.
Must feel strange to kill for the first time.
Strange?
Actually, I enjoy it. Each time I kill, I think there's one less bush between me and those lovely bottles of wine gathering dust in my cellar.
When's that blasted thing going to fall?
Probably hanging from a parachute.
Where do you see a parachute?
How can it just hang there? It's so bright.
Come on. Burn up. Fall. Get down, you fool. Get down, you'll get your heads blown off. Come back here. Come back, pick up your guns. Come back here. What are you running from? It is only a dirty bush. Think it is just a flare. Oh, my God. My God.
On your feet. On your feet, you pup.
At ease, as you were. No need for formality. I am Captain Tremaine of the Adjutant General's office. I've been appointed to defend you at your court-martial tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
What's the big hurry? It's the cooks they should court-martial. They're poisoning the whole army.
I don't know why they chose me. My practice was civil law. What do I know about a mess like this?
It's reassuring to know that our defense is in such good hands.
But there's not much of a defense, soldier. Obvious what happened. The charges say it all. Cowardice in the face of the enemy.
Cowardice?
It wasn't that at all.
Quiet. Show respect.
But I wasn't afraid. I mean, I was at first, but it wasn't that.
Do you know who the prosecutor is? Major Lamar of the High Command, that's all. I've just been a captain for the last 2.5 weeks.
I don't suppose the captain would be demoted if he should lose his case.
Oh, don't worry about that. He'll lose all right. It's bang, bang, bang for us.
Well, how can I win? It's all here in black and white. At a time when the Boche are defeating us everywhere, Lamar will eat me up alive. Well, I'll do the best I can. But you'll have to be absolutely honest with me. No need to hold back anything. Sergeant Vai, look at this record. I just don't understand it. The Croix de Guerre. What happened? How could a brave man like you run from the enemy?
Ask the others.
I'm asking you. Look, they're going to make an example of you men. That's why they're doing it so fast. Don't you understand that?
Sir, ask the others.
I really don't want to ask any of you. I don't like to defend cowards.
Why do you call us cowards? What did you want us to do? At first, I was blinded by the light. I couldn't see anything. And then I wasn't in the shell hole anymore. I wasn't. I was home.
Home?
Yes. I was home. No, it wasn't my imagination. I was really there. It was morning. I was in the kitchen. Mama was pouring milk for breakfast. And Papa was putting on his working shoes and talking about the day's work. My little sister was there. And through the window, I could see the sun, the way it hit the fields. A flock of birds. I was home. And I was happy. And then I felt the rifle in my hand, and I thought, what am I doing with this? So I threw it away. I was home.
In the middle of the battle, a light blinds him, and then he's at home. Has a doctor examined this boy lately?
Look, why don't you let us alone? Did we ask for you?
No, and I didn't ask for you.
All right, then, goodbye.
There is no way to speak to an officer.
Get him out of here!
Pauline, shut up or I'll bat your head in.
Do you want to know where I was? Well, listen to this, Captain Fancy Pants. Let me tell you where I was. I was on the deck of the Montez, a rusty little freighter carrying pig iron from South America to Marseille. Flopped on the forward deck, just taking it easy. I never felt like that in my whole life. I was free. I could breathe. There was nobody in the world that I wanted to punch in the mouth. I wanted to stay like that for 100 years. A part of everything. Everything. Tell me I wasn't on that boat, and I'll make you eat all those pencils.
I'm sorry, sir, but what can you expect in today's army?
When that flare burst, I really didn't see a thing.
Well, that's better. Then why did you run?
Somehow the air had changed. It had become soft and warm like a summer's night.
In November?
Oh, logic told me it was freezing cold. And yet I felt a warm breeze on my face, and my feet were no longer cold. And the air was suddenly filled with all sorts of remarkable scents. Tangerines, night flowers, dust, the way it settles after it's been watered down. And I think even incense. The kind my aunt used to burn under her favorite saints in church. Feast of odors after the stink of war. I felt an exaltation, a love of life. And the gun in my hand suddenly, well, it suddenly felt obscene. Obscene.
Sergeant, sometimes on a patrol, it's no secret, the men take along a little brandy in their canteens to keep warm.
Ha! Now we were all drunk.
Well, you're all talking like drunks.
Nobody had a drop.
What did you see, Sergeant? I'm going to look like the world's biggest fool. I was in the kitchen. Mama was pouring milk. I was on a freighter, carrying pig iron. Like incense my aunt used to burn under her favorite saint. They'll laugh me right out of the courtroom. All right, let's begin again.
I continue from the testimony of young men, Sergeant. Let me see. Ah, yes. It wasn't what I saw or smelled,
but what I heard. The light could have come from many things, but not the singing. I don't know what they were singing, but it sounded holy and it was beautiful. I started walking to where I could hear the voices better. Now, all this would be hilarious as a music hall sketch. But within the sound of enemy guns, I find the humor rather hollow. And I am more than a little surprised that the Defense Council would insult the intelligence of this court by introducing such trash as evidence.
It's what the men told me.
And what does the sergeant say? What did the sergeant see, hear, or smell?
I heard the Bosch cannon and machine gun. I smelled, well, there was a dead body in the shell hole. I saw a flare that lasted a long time.
Have you seen no other flares that lasted a long time?
Not like this one. Maybe it was a new Bosch invention. It stayed there for I don't know how long. It was cloudy, and the flare cast shadows against the clouds.
Well, at last we're beginning to hear some sense. You and your men were frightened by shadows and you ran. Is that correct?
Yes, I suppose so, sir.
Well, we should thank the sergeant for putting an end to all this nonsense once and for all. You're excused.
Thank you, sir.
One moment.
The Defense Council has already questioned the witness.
Just one more question, sir. You agree with Major Lamar that you and your men ran from the enemy?
Well, sir, there was this shadow.
You saw the shadow and you and your men ran. That's what you just said, correct?
Yes, sir.
Then I charge you with perjury.
What else could it have been but a shadow?
I am referring to this. On the direct examination, you said, here we are, we walked back to our lines.
That's right.
What's right? Walked or ran?
If I may say so, the distinction is a small one.
Sir, these men are on trial for showing cowardice in the face of the enemy. A coward does not walk.
Walking made them heroes?
Would you have the courage to walk across a battlefield? I beg your pardon, sir. I know that I would not have such courage. I admit I am as confused as anyone by the testimony of these prisoners. When I first talked to them, I thought they were trying to make a fool of me.
And what made the captain change his mind?
Nothing, but that there's an incredible sincerity about these men.
It has been my experience that men on trial for their lives are always incredibly sincere.
Nevertheless, I insist that the records show that they walked.
That the aforementioned soldiers are guilty of having shown cowardice in the face of the enemy. And by a unanimous vote, this court condemned them to the penalty of death by shooting, as provided for by the Code of Military Justice. This court is adjourned.
Aye. Face. Column right. Mark.
Cheer up, Captain. You did a good job. Better than they deserved.
Are you sure that's all it was, sir?
All what was?
I mean what the sergeant said, that the shadow was caused by a flare.
Of course. The rest is rubbish. Be sensible. What else could it have been?
What else could it have been? Good morning.
Is it? It's difficult for us to tell down here.
I'm going to see the commanding general and try to get a stay of execution.
You don't sound hopeful.
I'll do my best.
I think you will. And that's most curious. Why?
I'm a lawyer, that's why.
When you first came down here, you wanted to spit in our eye. But in the courtroom, and now. Don't tell me you actually believe our outrageous stories.
I don't know what I believe. Anyhow, while I'm in town, I could mail your letters if you wish.
When do they get rid of us?
It's scheduled for 1400 hours. No letters, Sergeant?
After 18 years in the Army, I've nobody to write to, sir.
Sergeant, is that all it was, just a shadow?
If I told them I saw Noah's Ark passing by, would that have saved us?
No, I suppose not.
Oh, Captain, you could do me a favor. When you go into town, you could get me a bottle of good cognac. Something really first rate, I mean. I would like to have one last taste of first rate cognac. Of course. It wasn't the shadow. And I don't imagine things. I'm as hard-headed as an ox. What I saw, I saw. When I looked up, the flare was still burning bright. And there, as big as the sky itself, was the face of the first man I ever killed. He was an Algerian, maybe even younger than me. And if I didn't cut his throat, he was going to cut mine. Then he was dead. His eyes were staring up at me. That's what I saw. That Algerian kid. And you know how he looked? As if he was saying, "It's all right, my friend. It wasn't your fault." That didn't make me feel any better about it. For there I was again with a gun in my hand and a belt of grenades around my neck. And if it wasn't my fault that Algerian kid was dead, well, then whose fault was it? You think I would say something like that in court and let them laugh at me, too? But if you were to get that cognac, while I can still drink it, you better hurry, sir.
Could the captain spare a cigarette?
Take them all.
Thank you, sir. Oh, thank you. My grandfather will be so happy. You see, we are all that's left of a family of 7. I'd like to return the captain's kindness.
That's all right.
Would the captain like a sack of white flour? At a reasonable price.
No thanks.
Or fresh butter or eggs? I have a fine Polish ham. Does the captain need any potatoes? A gold watch, in perfect condition. Solid gold. Bite it.
Not after 2. It can't be that late. 10 after 1.
My grandfather thanks you for the cigarettes.
Can you get me some cognac?
But of course.
It's got to be first class.
First class cognac is expensive.
Doesn't matter. I'm not bringing them anything else.
Pardon?
I've got to have it right away. Have to be back at the prison before 2 o'clock.
Our house is at the edge of town.
Get in.
I'll direct you. The Bosch are just a few kilometers behind those woods.
So pretty soon you'll be able to sell them potatoes and ham and butter.
I am learning a few German words. It's a difficult language.
I'm sure.
The cognac is in the cellar. I'll get it.
You do not need a gun. I threw mine in the river. I've been walking through the trees for I don't know how long. I'm tired. Very tired. For me, the war is finished. Let someone else call ready, aim. And let someone else call fire. And let someone else watch 10 young soldiers of the fatherland fall dead on the parade grounds.
What?
Warning to cowards, says the field marshal. An example. Let someone else do it.
What are you talking about?
What if they were telling the truth?
What?
Cowards? They didn't look like cowards.
What are you talking about?
What if each one really did see something?
See something? What?
You wouldn't believe me.
See something? What? Where? What?
There will be no execution until further notice. I'll give you my reasons later. Yes, I sent you an official order. When were you meant to be executed?
Sometime late today.
Operator. Operator. I want to talk to someone in the International Red Cross. Someone with authority to contact the German commander of this sector. Hurry. This is an emergency.
Of everything that happened, perhaps the final miracle was the chance meeting of two enemy soldiers because a sergeant wanted a taste of cognac. Within 24 hours, similar reports were coming in from all over Europe. Actually, no one was ever sure of what happened in the sky that dark November night. Ours is one version of the story. There are many others. But the one fact to remember is that more than 1,000 men did see or sense something. In any event, it is a matter of public record that for a while, men could not kill each other. And in the end, if all else is false, that is miracle enough.